Good morning. Glad you could join us. Hey, I want to share something out of Mark's Gospel from chapter 12, verses 43 and 44. And I'm picking up from Bob Goff's book about whimsy. So Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all that she had to live on. She put in 2 mites." Now, Bob goes on to say, he goes, "I have mites," and he goes, "I know when I say that it sounds like I have some kind of skin disease or something like that, a medical problem," but that's not what he means. He says, "I actually have 2 ancient coins that are called mites." He says, "I think a mite in today's value would be a couple of bucks, or about 6 minutes of someone's time, depending on what kind of work you do." He said it'd be pocket change if you carry change. I mean, pennies are out. You know, have you had them round up and just you're supposed to get something back and you don't, and never mind, but it's happening. Pennies are on their way out. So she was generous. She was as generous as she was needy. And one thing I want to point out is that when she put in everything that she had, the next chapter doesn't say, "And verily, verily, the disciples came by, and there was that poor widow, only now she had like this, she lived in a really nice trailer park, and she had a really nice chariot and all this stuff." It never says that. We are just left to assume that she continued to live her beautiful, faithful, generous life, which I think is quite interesting. So how often have you given out of what you don't have? Well, in other words, you gave and it hurt. So I get it. That's kind of hard, especially those of us that are thinking about retirement. You got to have some money set aside. But I remember Mother Teresa used to say that if you're going to contribute, I think they're the Sisters of Mercy, she wanted it to be a sacrificial gift, something where you gave something up. And that's totally legit, because you might have some money set aside. I have different accounts, different sort of buckets. Not going to tell you where all my money is, but anyway, you had set aside for certain things. And I'll just say there's one account, it's like, I don't really want to give anything out of there. And just as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, you know what, I probably need to give something out of there, because it would really make a difference. So you're probably a generous person. You probably like to give. I just talked to somebody recently, and they were just kind of asking me like how they were really generous with something. I won't go into the whole story. And then they said that their question to me as a pastor was like, "Does this make sense?" I felt awesome afterwards. It's like, yes, it does, because Jesus said it's more blessed to give than it is to receive. And that's why Jesus wants us to give. But the point that Jesus was getting at wasn't just like, hey, here's a new law, give everything you have, put it all in the box. I think he wants us to be cheerful givers. And I love that when I hear that from people. And I know there are people who give way more than 10%. And they'll just be, I believe in being a cheerful giver. And at first, I think some people might think, oh, they're trying to get off the hook. I'm not cheerful today, so I don't have to give. No, the person I'm thinking about, I think, is uber generous. I also like what Goff says here. He says the next verse isn't about how she got that new house and the new wheels. Like on Oprah, that used to happen, right? Oh, under your seat, there's car keys, and Oprah had the money. She could pull off stuff like that. And God could too. But there's something that's inspiring. You know what? We don't know this woman's name, but her story has been told for over 2,000 years, and it has inspired people. I hope it inspires you today during this Lenten season to be generous. What is it you don't have a whole lot of? You might say it is money. Well, maybe God's calling you to be generous with that. Maybe the thing that you really have the least of is time. Maybe God wants you to be a little more generous with your time. And Bob Goff, he says that if you take a step in these directions, being generous with what you have little of, he bets you 2 mites that it'll change you. God bless you. Have a great week.